Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient and been dealing with cancer for over 2 years now. And I just had some fresh scans done a couple of weeks ago, and things are looking really, really good all the way across the board. And now I'm only on one medication, and that's a medication for to strengthen my bones. I just begged off another one uh, that was for my prostate, and I told my oncologist we've come to we've come to an interesting point in our relationship because now she treats me as a person and listens to me and is willing to go along with what I have to say, which is great, which she didn't do at the beginning. And I asked her, I said, I'd really like to get off this prostate, injection medication because I don't want to keep taking things just to take them. And she said, yeah, but you really need to do it and all this kind of stuff. And I said, look, I'm to the point now, I know what's going on. I know what works. And if things go south, I'll be happy to get back on it. And she looked at me and she says, you sure you want to do that? I said, yeah, I'm sure. I want to get back to being a complete human being. And she said, okay, I'll go along with it. And I said, yeah, if things start turning for the worse, we know what to do. We know exactly what to do. So she said, okay, I'm good with that. So I was really, really thrilled with that. And things are getting better. My legs getting stronger. So everything is pointing in the right direction. So I appreciate everyone's support and everyone's prayers and everybody's input. And thank you so much to the LinkedIn community and all of that. So just gratitude. And I'm so grateful for everything. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so excited to introduce my guest today, and she is special. Her name is Paoola Sefair, and she's laughing. And she has an incredible story, which I am anxious to hear about. So, Paoola, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
So my name is Paula. I'm originally from Colombia. I grew up in the US. I've had a chance to live in Europe the last 10 years of my life. I have a little 9-year-old, and I am passionate about making a difference in people's lives. I'm passionate about being able to help somebody else through a difficult challenge. So I feel honored and privileged that I have an opportunity to do that now with the work we're doing, and that I can dedicate my time to spend with my care crew, which we'll talk about in a bit. I love traveling. I love and really am into mindfulness these days. I think that's how I've survived the last 5 years through cancer. And yeah, just like spending time with my friends and just being real, being in the present moment. It's what I'm trying to do these days.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So, why don't we start with your
Mm.
story and you know what happened when you got cancer? What kind of cancer did you get, and how did you react?
So I had thyroid cancer, and I realized it, or I came across it in the most mundane ways. It was one day I had trouble swallowing, and that came and went, and didn't think much of it the first time. Then the second time it happened, I mentioned it to a friend who was a doctor, and I was seeing him a few days before the New Year's in 2013. And he said, well, why don't we just get it checked out? Get an ultrasound. I went in for an ultrasound December 31st, 2013. And then a few days later, my results came back, and he goes, you know what? I'm gonna have another friend who's a specialist look at this for you, and maybe we'll just do some more tests. And I'm like, okay. So I went in for a biopsy. When I went in to get my test results of biopsy, the doctor came in. This is a different doctor at the time. He just opened the door. He had a file in his hands, and he didn't even look up and look at me. He just said, "Oh, it's cancer, kiddo." And I of course was not expecting that. I just thought, oh, maybe I don't know, maybe my lymph nodes are swollen, or maybe I just never thought having issues with swallowing just twice would equal cancer.
Wow.
So that took a minute for that to sink in. I remember having my son at the time was a year and a half old. He was sitting on my lap, and my mom was in the room, because again, I was not expecting a cancer diagnosis. I had my family with me in the room. Um,
Wow.
and I remember after, like when I'm dating myself now, Charlie Brown, that Wong Wong. Did you remember hearing that?
Of course.
And whenever I think of that appointment, that's what the doctor sounds to me, because after he blurted out those words, I don't remember much of that appointment. I had to actually schedule a second appointment, go back to him and said, okay, I need you to explain this to me again. And how do we go about this? What do we do? And so that's how it started. And then 5 years later is when I finally got my second NAD. Actually, no, it's been more than that. 8 years later, I finally got my second NAD. So it's been a while, because they did all the process for the surgery, the radiation, was on medication. Numbers never really trended the way they wanted it to trend, but there was nothing there that they could say, okay, well, we have something else to go after, until there was. And so I had to go and get surgery again and go through all of that to finally get a second NAD of, okay, now we believe that you're doing good.
So when the doctor told you in that very awful way that you had cancer, like it was like a casual thing, I don't like that at all myself. But what went through your mind? What I mean, that's got to just shake you to the core.
Yeah, I because I had my son with me, and again, he was my first son. He was only a year and a half. I remember the first thing I remember feeling was my body just went cold. I just remember feeling like this cold wave run through my body. And then I remember thinking, oh my God, am I going to see my son grow up? Am I going to be around for him? And that's all that just completely took me off track when I started thinking that. And then I don't even remember what else the doctor said that day, to be honest. I was just more focused on, oh my God, I may not be here.
I totally understand. I mean, it's just uh, such an important thing, and I one of my pet peeves is the way that the doctor delivers that, and I think they need to be taught, just how to be more compassionate, and how to deal with the human emotion side of it. Of you're in many ways, you're delivering to some people a death sentence, and
Yeah.
that's such a powerful thing, and to treat it so uh nonchalantly.
Nonchalantly. Yeah, it's like, oh,
it,
you have
it,
a head cold. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
exactly, and that's so wrong, because the
Yeah.
person who is receiving that message, it's life changing,
Yes.
it's life altering. So
Yes.
what what was your plan moving forward off of that?
Well, the first thing I did was I looked for a different doctor after that. And then I got a second and then a third opinion until I finally found a doctor in a medical center where I felt that I connected with the doctor, and I felt that the empathy and the just like that human connection with the doctor. So I ended up going to Moffitt in Tampa, in Florida, with Dr. MacGyver, and he's been my oncologist ever since. Yeah.
Dr. MacGyver?
Dr. MacGyver, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's right. I just realized that now that you said it. I never thought about it. Dr. MacGyver.
For those of you who don't know, there was a very popular show called MacGyver, and
Yeah.
he was a guy that could do like anything, and get in these situations that were life threatening, and he'd always have like some solution to get out of it. So that's pretty wild.
I
So
feel like that's him. That describes him quite well. Yeah, he's been a great doctor. I feel
good,
very
good. I'm
blessed.
so glad. But you
Yeah.
did something that a lot of people need to take note of, and to find the right doctor, I think, is so important to someone who is compassionate and has empathy towards your situation and treats you like a human being, like the way
Yes.
you want to be treated. And
Yes.
that is not always the case.
Mm.
I mean, I
I'm
go to
surprised that
medical.
I hear that so often. I thought I was the exception and that I just
Oh,
happened to have a difficult time finding the right doctor. And then the more I talk to cancer patients, it's so sad to hear that it's not oh sorry, my that it's not the exception. It's more the norm.
right, right, absolutely. So you did the right thing to find somebody else who is a better fit, because this cancer journey is it's not easy. It's not
Mm,
easy no matter what you do, it can be very, very complex. And if you're fighting your doctor, your oncologist at the same time, it just makes and
yeah.
adds so many things to the journey that you really don't need at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So keep bringing us along the journey with you.
Okay.
So what
So
happened next?
so during that process, I had worked most of my career at Cisco, a technology company out of Silicon Valley. And one of my colleagues, after I had my diagnosis and I had been through it a few years, she also got diagnosed with breast cancer. And even though we were close throughout our relationship at Cisco, our working relationship, the having cancer in common brought us even closer together. And so I was in Vienna at the time, she was in Germany, and we spent a lot of time having conversations that you have with somebody who knows and understands what you're going through, and they're really um, vulnerable, profound, deep conversations, and you get to a level of a relationship that you don't have with a lot of people, I think, unless you go through something so traumatic together. And she and I were that for each other. We used to call each other our cancer buddy. And when she got really sick, and it was that experience where it gets real very quickly, I thought, and a lot of our friends that we have in common thought, you have cancer, so you probably know best how to handle this. How do we do this? What do we send? What do we say? What do we not say? And what I realized through that year or so that Agnieszka was so ill is that we all go through cancer in our own way. Cancer is such a personal experience. And I really felt like a bad friend during this process because I didn't know if I was showing up how and when she needed me the most. Even though we had very open conversations, I didn't know if I was saying too much, not enough, if I was doing too much, not doing enough. And when Agnieszka got a little better after about a year, and we had one of our discussions, I said, I really feel like I was a horrible friend. I've had this really bad feeling about how I showed up or didn't show up or didn't know how to show up. And she said, it's hard because as a patient yourself, sometimes you feel so lost and so overwhelmed that you can't even register if your friend is showing up right or not. It doesn't even sometimes matter because you're so lost in your own mess. And so we started talking about like, well, what could we do something about this? I mean, could we take all that experience that we had with technology and use technology as a way to do good? And that's how the idea for the app came about, when we just started talking about what were her pain points, what were my pain points, what were things that we experienced. And we kind of came around these 4 consistent pain points that we kept hearing. And those were around asking for help. She and I, I am type A personality. She was a very type A personality. So asking for help was incredibly hard for us, as is for a lot of people. Around sharing updates, because sometimes you get asked the same question, like, I don't know, 10 times in one day. And it's like, oh, I don't want to keep retelling the story. And then, so keeping people updated. And then the gifting part, which I know sounds silly, but sometimes you get gifts that you can't appreciate or that you don't enjoy, or they actually have a negative effect. I mentioned in the previous interview that that you were part of, where a friend who's going through cancer, she hates getting flowers. She absolutely, it sets her off. And I didn't understand at the time when she first told me, I'm like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with flowers? And she goes, well, Paoola, every time I see those things and you start to die, I know that that's what's happening to me. And I don't want to see it every day in my room. And I'm like, oh my God, I never thought about that. So those were some of the things. The fourth one being that well-intended friends, including myself, sometimes we overdo it, not knowing that we're overdoing it, right? And as opposed to helping it, we're making it worse. So how do you manage when people want to help you, but they don't know how to? So those were the 4 pain points, and we started thinking about different ways that we could do something about it. And we just ended up at the idea of coming up with an app. And that's how the My Care Crew app came about. We tried to best we could address those 4 pain points. And that's the first iteration of the app that's available currently in the Apple Store and the Android Store.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I know exactly what you're saying there because I went through the same exact thing. In fact, I was on this ride to nowhere pretty much because, family and friends wanted to know. I mean, I'd get up in the morning, and as soon as I get up, I'd be on the phone with family and friends all day long, spending half an hour on each call. And I realized this is unsustainable. I am really weak, and this is making me even weaker. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And what was happening with my situation was people were getting frustrated at me because Monday's news on Wednesday was obsolete because things were happening so quickly.
So quick.
And so, people were actually getting kind of upset at me because they thought I was holding back information, which was crazy.
Crazy.
I mean, here I am. I'm a cancer patient, and people were getting upset at me. And so that's when I started my Caring Bridge site and one side where I just posted it. But that's why I love your concept of the app. That is so much more efficient and so much better for the patient. Absolutely. Because I mean, it's brilliant. It is truly brilliant.
Thought that, because one thing that Agnieszka and I both felt during our process is that we felt that we lost control. Being type A people, we like control, and there's nothing more disarming and feeling like out of control than going through cancer, because literally your life is in somebody else's hands. And we thought that if we're able to address those items that we talked about, and that we could give that sense of control, even if it's for a little bit of things, a small part of the process, back to the patient, that the patient could control who they allow into their inner bubble of, these are the people that I want to be part of this journey with me. It's not for everybody. Not everybody needs to be a part of it, but these are the people that I allow to be a part of this with me. I thought that was so important, to feel that sense of just feeling, like you said, a little human again. Like, I get to decide this right now, today. I may not get to decide 99% of what goes on in my life right now, but this I get to decide. And I thought that was important to give back to patients. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, to have you think about that aspect of it is just fantastic because, as cancer patients, we have to allow other people in so many instances to control certain parts of our life just so that we could, live another day. And so to give that is a gift. That is a beautiful gift to the cancer patient, to give them something that they feel that they have control over. So that's brilliant. I love that. Absolutely love that. So tell us more about it, and yeah, and tell us, when you started it, and some of the more details about the app.
So we started it in 2020. We actually, with the pandemic hit, and that's when we started actually putting down on a paper napkin, actually, this is what we would want, this is what it would look like, and then we actually made a PowerPoint out of it. And at some point, Agnieszka mentioned it to somebody in the Cisco Cancer Network, and they got all excited about the idea. And then some of our friends in California, ex-colleagues from Cisco, they heard about the idea, and then they call Agnieszka and they're like, what can we do to help? And as the idea started kind of taking shape, and we talked to more and more patients, we talked to like over 100 patients at the time of what they felt about it, what they thought they needed. And we kind of started to shape each and every piece of it more and more. We had people who we didn't even know this, the agency that Cisco, one of the agencies that Cisco used, they learned about it through one of our ex-colleagues. And so they called us and they said, okay, we want to help you. What do you need? I said, well, could you help with branding? I said, yes. What else do you know how to do? Can you help with like making the app look pretty? Because at this point we had like a wireframe, like a black and white wireframe that some of the interns at Cisco had said, well, we can make it look better for you and we can do this. And then this agency, MRM, came in and they're like, we'll take care of the UX, we'll do your branding, we'll do this. Well, I mean, I am humbled by how many people just pitched in and said, we believe in what you're trying to do. We believe that it'll add value to so many people's lives. We want to pitch in and help. And so it's my care crew is the result of many people who came together and just believed in this cause and made it happen. So it took us about a year plus of programming because we got hit, our developer got hit with COVID and the timelines kept getting pushed out. But we finally went out with the first iteration of the app last year. And we're learning every day and we get feedback every day so that we're able to continue to make it better and learn how to make it more intuitive and learn how to add more value to make it easier for patients. So it's been a learning curve, like very steep. But it's been so rewarding when we get comments from people that tells us, I wish I had this, or this is making a difference, or thank you for doing this. I mean, it just makes the work so worthwhile. Like, how could you not do this?
That's absolutely awesome. I mean, I love this. Absolutely love it. I mean, at this point in my journey, it takes a lot for me to just like say, wow. And that's the word I'm going to use with what you're doing is wow. That
Thank you, Mark.
is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And it is so needed in this cancer world, and not only in the cancer world, but for other afflictions as well. There's so many things, heart disease and so many things that,
caregivers
yes,
need so much support. Yeah.
So there's just so much to this that, people don't realize how difficult these health journeys are until you're actually in it yourself.
Yes.
And you know, that I had no idea about cancer. I mean, I didn't, you know, it's what's interesting is people, it's not like something that you study for all your life. You don't study cancer to get cancer. You know, in other words, you know, like a studying to be a doctor or a nurse or an accountant, you know, with the end goal is you're going to become that. You don't study cancer
Right.
to get cancer. It's just, that's just not the way it is. And so it's shoved off to the side. But when you get cancer, all of a sudden, in an instant, you have to be get educated. And that's what I think both of us have done is we've educated ourselves and we've searched out knowledge about this journey, and it's so complex and there's so much to it. And that's why people are so overwhelmed by cancer, is not just the disease itself, it's all of the peripheral things that come with it that you know you don't have an idea about until you're actually in the middle of it. And so you kind of find yourself in the lion's den looking at that lion wondering, how did I get here?
Yeah, you froze a little bit on my side, so I don't know if you had a question with how did I get here, or if you were making a comment.
Yeah, I was just making a comment
Okay.
about, you know, being in the middle of the journey,
Yeah.
and you know, being in the lion's den and staring the lion down, and you're wondering, how did I get here?
Absolutely. And I think that's, for me, has been the hardest part about dealing with cancer has been the emotional part. I mean, I was always this type A, career oriented, go, 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 travel the world, had, worked 80 hours a week. I was in technology, and it's like, nothing's going to stop me. Um, and cancer stopped me. Cancer knocked me off my feet. I'll say cancer brought me down to my knees, and it humbled me in ways that I'd never cared to get humbled in. And it just, at least for me, I feel like it unraveled me. It did. It kind of, and I had to figure out through those, at least the last 5 years, where the emotional anxiety, mental part of it became much more challenging for me. I had to figure out, okay, how do you pick up the pieces, build yourself up again, and get through this? I was lucky that I've had, like I said, a really good oncologist, and and I wish he kind of had said it earlier, but I'm glad he said it when he said it. It's like, get help, get professional help. You're at a point where you're not gonna be able to work yourself out of this on your own. Um, and so I did. I reached out to a psychiatrist, psychologist. I've tried different modalities of mental health to get the support I needed, because I got to the point where I realized I won't be able to do this on my own. I won't be able to crawl out of the hole that I'm in by myself. It's gotten bigger than I could manage. And I don't think people prepare you for that. I don't think people prepare
Right.
you that, in my case, that part was a lot harder than like the surgeries, the radiation, the side effects, all that stuff. I think for me, for sure, the emotional piece has been 10 times harder to get through.
I completely understand, absolutely understand, you know, what that means. And that's why I treated my cancer journey as a treating the total person, you know, from diet to the mental part to, you know, everything I could possibly do as a human being, because everything was affected. And people don't realize that. I think so many people just give it up to their doctors and say, you know, whatever you're going to do, go ahead and do that. And
Yeah.
you're giving the power to someone who may or may not really care about you. You know, I mean, yeah, I don't know about where you're at, but here our oncologist has 15 minutes to spend with you, and then they move on to the next patient. So the question I ask everybody who is involved with cancer is 15 minutes enough for your oncologist to learn about you in order to help save your life?
And you have so much, I mean, this is what I've learned in this process, is that there's so much that is up to us and that it is within our power. And I really, really believe in the power of the mind.
Yes.
And there's so much that we can do if we harness that power of the mind, and if we develop it, and if we work on it, if we believe in it enough. I know that, you need medication, and the Western science, I get that, that I'm not suggesting that you can cure yourself by just thinking positive thoughts. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that we do have in power over what is happening, and that if we approach it in that way, and if we don't come into it as we're a victim or this is happening to us, but it's something that we can have agency over, I think it makes such a difference in how we react and how we think about things day to day. And I wish I had known that or been aware of it so much earlier on. I think my journey would have been completely different.
I think what so many people do is when they get a cancer diagnosis, is they look back in their past and say, what did I do to get that? And why did this happen? And why is this so negative? And you don't have time as a cancer patient to do that. What your focus should be on is today and tomorrow, because you can't change the past. So you can learn from it and use that information that you've learned to move forward, because what's important for the cancer patient is today, because you're still alive at that point. And if you have a breath, and if you're able to, experience a day, that is time you could use to help save your life. And it is, I think whoever coined cancer as a battle was just so spot on, because it is a battle. And if you don't realize that you're in a battle, then you're going to be left behind. I mean, it is a battle of your mind. It's a battle of your body. It's a battle with all these different factors. And unless you realize that, then, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And so I've been very, very fortunate, so fortunate and blessed that I've been in front of so many incredible people, such as yourself. And I've met so many amazing people who have helped me along in this journey. And I'm just so thankful, just so incredibly thankful, and so happy to just be here.
Yeah, I think it's a special community, not one that we'll choose to be a part of, but once you're in it and you start to meet more and more people, I think part of that is just because you don't have you're done with the BS. It's like I don't have time for that. I want to be real in all I'm much more aware of my time and what's important and how I allocate that time and energy. And so I feel like this community that call it cancer community or whatever you want to call it, it feels very genuine, and it is what it is. There's no pretense. And so I don't take that for granted, that maybe that's the badge of honor that we get to be part of this community.
A gentleman named Joe Tower, who I interviewed, I don't know if you know him. He says it's the community that nobody wants to be a part of, but once you're in it, you're honored to be there.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the way I feel, because what's, just like us, we've just met, but I've seen you on another interview. we didn't know each other, but right away we have the ability to connect because of our, you know, similar dealings with cancer, and that just eliminates a lot of the, you know, normal, hey, let's get to know each other first before we share that. We don't have time. We know
Yeah.
that as cancer patients, we know that time is so precious that
Mhm.
let's just get to it and get to know each other,
Yeah.
you know.
It gets
And
much deeper, much faster.
yes. And that's great. I just love that, absolutely love that, because it just, you know, you really get down and you get to know people, uh, and what their journey is, and it's just so incredible, and I love it. I, I mean, I could talk to you for days.
Oh.
I literally can, and we're going to talk more. What I'd like to
Mhm.
do at this point is ask you, what is your final thought that you'd like to leave everyone, as far as, you know, knowledge you would like to impart on people, or whatever your thought may be at this time?
I think to me, my biggest aha during cancer, and I wish more people knew it, is that whatever it is you think you're feeling, or whatever it is you are feeling, you're not the only one going through it. I really thought for many years there that I really was going crazy. I thought that I was losing my ability to manage my mind, that it was getting away from me. And so if I had just spoken out sooner, if I had raised my hand sooner and say, I'm drowning, I need help, I probably could have saved myself a couple of years of heartache. And so, what I would say to anybody, whether it's cancer or whether it's a different situation, whatever it is, but if you feel you're drowning, if you feel you're the only one, if you feel you're going crazy, it's ask for help. You know, DM me, DM a friend, look for somebody to talk to. You don't have to drown by yourself. There's no need with all the resources that are out there. um so that would be my biggest message. I would say is just ask for help.
That's a beautiful message, Paula. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you for sharing this. Can you repeat the name of your app one more time, and
Sure.
spell it out for everybody?
My care crew, so MyCare, crew, REERCREW, and you can find it in the Apple and Android store. My care crew.
And it's free, right?
It is free, completely free, no advertising. Anybody can use it. You have to have cancer. Yeah. It's however, whoever can needs it, you have access to it.
That is awesome. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing this time with me, Paula. I really, really enjoyed it, and I thank you so much. And with that, I always, you know, we live in this crazy, negative world, and you know, I always say this, but I'm going to say it again. Make somebody's day, you know, say hello to them, and smile at them, or do something for them, or help somebody. But the only way that we're going to have a world that's better for us and our kids is if we help to make it better. So make an effort to do something for somebody else, and you know, that way we can start on a small level to help make this world a better place. And we're in the United States, you're in the Netherlands, and you know, if we do that on a worldwide basis, that's how we can make this world a better place for all of us. And I always like to leave everybody with a positive quote, and this is from Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, and he says, never use the word impossible seriously again. Toss it into the verbal waste bucket. And that is so right. And we as people, we're always telling ourselves, you know, negative things, but if we tell ourselves positive things, I believe in the impossible. I mean, when I was diagnosed, my oncologist said, you know, basically was telling me, you're not going to be here very long. You know, you have stage 4 cancer. I can't cure you. Get your affairs in order. And I just said, okay. And I didn't listen to her. I didn't take it in. I heard her. I respected her, but that was not part of my plan. And so let's, you know, help each other, make this world a better place. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you next week.